Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Dark Knight's Death Metal, issue number 1. I'm not going to show my face because I'm really sick. You're welcome. Okay, so Death Metal, an Anti-Crisis, Part 1, It All Matters, by Scott Snyder, by Greg Capullo. They got a bunch of cool names in here, which I'm just not going to get into because I'm really sick. Inks by Jonathan Glapian, colors by FCO Placencia, and letters by Tom Napolitano. Covers and a whole bunch of variant covers and stuff like that, and freaking awesome. Anyway, this was a really good book. They put out a huge, the only reason why there's so many pictures here, so many parts of the comic book, is because they gave us so many. So I'm not arguing at all. I'm glad that they gave us so many. So like a 10-page or something like that preview, whatever, it's nice. I'm happy for it because they want you to buy it. And guess what? It's worth buying. It's definitely worth buying. I'm kind of hoping they're still going to be one at the comic book store for me because this is a Comixology purchase for me. And because I'm sick, so I don't want to actually go out because that's the sensible thing to do. Anyway, hopefully my comic book store will still hold mine for me. In the meantime, this was wicked, man. There's some really goofy parts in here, okay? Make no mistake. But with such a... Look, the heroes have lost. Ever since, mind you, the most recent reading order for this is the Justice League comic book, which is actually still going on right now, but now it's being written by Venditti. Prior to that, it was written by Snyder. And that's the run that you have to look at. You have to look at that entire run, and the Justice League No Justice before that, and the Heavy Metal before that. The Hell Arisen stuff would help. Everything's connected in this. They're making the DC Comics kind of like the... what do you call, like the MCU, you know, the movies and whatnot. The problem is there are too many heads in here. They don't have a single Kevin Feige. They just got a whole bunch of people putting this stuff together. I'm not going to lie, if they just had Snyder doing this, it would probably be a whole lot more epic. Because right now, like, I'm not digging a lot of the stuff that's coming out. But this, I think I'm starting to see now where this was all going. You see, Wonder Woman is in hell, or Themyscira. It's basically the exact same place right now. And they're not too far away from Castle Bat, because, you know, the Batman Who Laughs, he's won. Along with Perpetua, they've replaced the Apex Lex, right? He's gone for the most part. Let's see what happens with this knucklehead if he comes back and goes after them. I'm sure he will. But they got a whole bunch of different missions going on that we're only seeing the very beginning of it. Like, you know, what's Lobo doing exactly? What was he out searching for? And was he talking to Superman? Was that actually our Superman? What's going on here? You know? Because I don't know. They got Wonder Woman is inside this place right next to this pit. There's a prisoner coming in, and a bunch of the Batmen are bringing her in. See, a lot of the characters that we know and love have all been turned into goofy versions of Batman. And, I mean, that's just something that the Batman Who Laughs would do. So it makes perfect sense to me. Bring him in, and this particular prisoner, turns out, he's actually Wally West. Now, I wasn't expecting this at all because he's supposed to be all-powerful right now, but I guess they found a way to stop him. If you were reading the Flash Forward stuff, because yes, that's actually connected, he's got the power of Dr. Manhattan and the Mobius chair, so they shouldn't be able to stop him, right? He basically exists outside of time, outside of space, outside of reality for the most part. Even Perpetua shouldn't be able to go after him, right? As long as he's on that chair. Well, something's up. Maybe he surrendered himself. I don't know. It also looks, for right now, as if he's the final Bruce Wayne, which would be really weird. I don't understand that, what's going on, but this is a really good, you know, first issue, because it brings me to a lot of questions and where exactly Snyder, with his crazy, sick, creative mind, is going with this. So what I get to see is that Wonder Woman has made a weapon. Now, this could have been only the slightest bit better. Instead, he relied on the art to do this. And if you got Greg Capullo on art, that's perfectly acceptable. The part where, this is going to be a spoiler, the part where the Batman Who Laughs gets right up on Wonder Woman and says, you know, what's going on with Batman? You know, what's going on? You think that this guy's going to be able to save you guys? And she's like, I don't wait for people to save me. You know, it's like, oh, well, you know, you just melted down that invisible jet. What are you going to do with the metal? You know, like Batman, he would make a shield. She's like, you know Batman, but you don't know me. That's the funny thing about it. You don't know me. And he's like, so what would you do? He's like, oh, I know you. We've been lovers on some planes of existence. Yes, and I actually like those planes of existence. There's been a whole bunch of us, and I've known you very well. It's like, so what would you make? A weapon? A sword? She's like, actually, I've already made the weapon. On top of that, it wouldn't just be a sword. And then she pulls out an invisible lasso, and she rips Batman Who Laughs to pieces. It's confirmed on like the very next page that he's actually dead. Now, is Perpetua going to bring him back? Can she bring him back? I don't know. But you know what? That is not something I expected in the slightest. Now, where's the story going to go? Well, the fact of the matter is that they've been showing a whole bunch of things in here. They've been showing a whole bunch of different crises, which I think is really good. You see, a lot of these other crises that have happened have only been, every 5 years there's a new crisis, and we reboot everyone and everything, you know what I'm saying? And then boom, there you go. Let's just start with whole new worlds someplace and whole new characters that look like your characters, but they're a little bit different because, comic book sales and issue number ones, right? I'm sure that's going to happen. I'm positive that's going to happen because why the hell wouldn't it happen? But I'm kind of excited to see it happen. Because it turns out that the way that this crisis is going to have to be averted or won is that they have to go back and revisit, and fix all of the previous crises that they've done, hopefully based on the knowledge that they've already got, because that would be epic. You ever want to go back in time and be like, if I knew now what I did, if I knew then what I know now, that whole situation would have been different. Imagine if it's a crisis level event. Okay, that is about as epic as freaking epic gets. So I am damn sure impressed by what I'm reading in this first issue. There's only going to be like, 6 issues? Damn, you just killed the Batman Who Laughs in a panel. I'm impressed. I can't wait to see what else is going to happen. Now, again, there's a couple silly things in here, like the dinosaur and the typical old tropes about, oh, what are you going to do with those little tiny hands? Can you throw batarangs with those hands? It's silly, but I guess in some ways we kind of need it. It was fun. Look, make no mistake. It served its purpose. I laughed, but I also kind of groaned after I laughed. Like, dude, do new stuff. Don't do the typical old stuff. I think we've all heard the dinosaur jokes and the little hands jokes, all right? But, all that being said, when you push a lot of these things aside and you just look at the actual story itself instead of little fluff pieces that they do for a couple of extra panels, you really get to see the genius behind it. And that's impressive. That's the stuff, like if it didn't have the other stuff, I'd feel a lot better about what I'm seeing. But it is what it is. Anyway, I enjoyed the hell out of this. I'm looking forward to seeing Wonder Woman using her chainsaw to kick butt, her invisible lasso. Dear God, how did nobody ever think of this before? Why did I never think of this before? I guess it just simply takes a Scott Snyder to think of it. Booyah. You know what I'm saying? Also, something that was cool is when Batman shows up. When he shows up, here's another spoiler, he shows up with a Black Lantern ring. When he says rise and you get the bump, 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 the only disappointing thing about the whole thing is that it only lasted a few panels. That is, unfortunately, you know what? That is typical for Scott Snyder. If anybody were to ever ask me, if you only got to make one complaint that you could, quote unquote, fix about Scott Snyder, what would it be? My answer to that would be, explore your storyline better. Explore that stuff a little bit better. Stop rushing and putting out, listen, maybe you've got 1 million, billion, trillion ideas inside of your head. That's great. Could you let them breathe a little bit more? You know what I'm saying? The greatest freaking, we're talking about heavy metal and death metal and stuff like that. You think of any of the best 80s guitar solos that you can imagine, right? Just imagine even better than that. Imagine Jimmy Page, all right? Just doing one of his guitar solos, one of his many versions of his guitar solo for Stairway. And now try and play it at 3 times its speed, 5 times its speed. It's not the same, is it? Right? And that's the biggest problem that I have with Snyder. Dude, slow it down. Because I can see the genius. The problem is, by the time I finally recognize it, it's already moved on to something else. And I can't breathe. I can't just sit there and enjoy what you've done here and now. And I like living in the moment of my comic books. You push out to, and I understand his reasoning because he said his reasoning before. I'm trying to give you as much as I possibly can because I know that comic books have increased in price, and I love you for that. I love you for that. That is, like, very few people care about the pocketbooks, the wallets of their fan base. And Snyder does. Unfortunately, I feel like he's rushing it so much, it's actually killing the mood of so much of the stuff. Do you know how much I would give to see the next 5, 8 pages of Batman just, with the bump, 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 the heartbeat of the Black Lanterns, and he's going after these guys, and holy crap, this was actually something that the Batman Who Laughs didn't think about, because I don't know what that whole exchange was about in the first place. I really genuinely don't. And when it just ends, it's like, man, great moment, completely lost in infinity. That's one of those moments that any of us should be able to say, yo, you remember that one time Snyder and Capullo had Batman come walking up against the Batman Who Laughs, and he had the Black Lantern ring? I promise you, nobody's going to remember that because it was a couple of panels. It was just a few lousy panels. That should be something that echoes throughout comic book history. More than just jam-packing our comics with, really cool stuff. Instead, let it breathe so that we could reap what you've sown. So that we could really enjoy it and say, holy crap, so that high can live a lot longer instead of the coitus interruptus that we wind up dealing with later when it's like, okay, are we going back to the Black Lanterns? Dude, that should have been an epic moment. Instead, it was an epic 3 or 4 panels, and that is booty. I don't want to read booty in my comics. Done with that. This isn't a John Byrne comic. I said what I said. I said what I said. All right, I'm out. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.